welcome to Just Two Girls That Work Together and That Guy. I'm that guy, Rashad Gardner, and the two girls are Terica Jackson and Lakeisha Jackson. Today, we're doing something special for you guys, everyone that's watching. Every month, we're going to have one episode dedicated to deep diving on one album in any genre, any artist. And today, that is going to be Mary J. Blige, Share My World. So, first, we're going to get it started with current events. Lakeisha?
Yes. I feel like a lot happened this week in the music industry, but at the same time, it was nothing because it was the usual. First, let's start with our friend, our brother that we pray for a lot lately, Mr. Kanye West. Man, okay, so of course it started all with a rant, which is the usual for him. So at first I wasn't paying attention, but that video of him pissing on his Grammy, that's what got me. That's when I was like, okay, maybe I should see what he's talking about. So for those of y'all that don't know, Kanye has been upset about his contract with Def Jam, I think, and he's like gone so far as to actually post the contract on Twitter. He's referring to artists as modern day slaves, and he's upset because he doesn't have his masters, ownership to his masters, and he refuses to put out any more music with them.
I think it's very interesting, the Grammy thing. Well, one, that was like disturbing to like kind of like come across online. I was like, all right, but I find it interesting because I remember at one point in time, that's all Kanye was like fighting for, was to get that Grammy, get those Grammys. Like, you know, him not being in the album of the year category and all that stuff. Like when he was like really fighting to like be recognized and everything in the major categories. And I think people grow, and I think it's awesome that, I'm not saying it's awesome that he did that, but I think it's awesome that he's grown to that point where he kind of sees the value is not even really just in that statue. It's a lot more than that. But
right.
I think, it's crazy because, as we know, this is not a new topic for artists. This has been said, whether it's been, by Jay-Z or even our elders in the music industry. They've said this for years. I think with Kanye, with Twitter, it's just like, we're used to these rants. I think that some of the things that he's saying in the current, it's just like 2020 is the perfect time for him to be bringing this up again, because everything is already being exposed. This is the year that everybody is like really shining a light on the injustice in the world and in the various fields of work. And so I think it's just right on time, and so people are really, really paying attention. But it's what he's talking about isn't new. It's not a hidden secret within entertainment, period, that these people typically are misused and abused for their talents, and a lot of them, when they start out, they just want to get on and they're willing to sign or do anything. Most of these people don't come from a background or have people around them that are educated enough to know about the contracts that they're signing. And a lot of them don't realize that, you're giving all these things at the beginning, but you're going to owe them back. And so it's just a lot of levels to it. It's not a new topic. I think that, kudos for him for finding, like you said, Rashad, to realize that like he's more than just this award that a group of people grade him on or like, say that he's worthy of. Good kudos for him for that. But I think that some of what he's saying, even though it may be true, like a lot of things that he says, is probably going to fall on deaf ears because it's Kanye. And people have already put him in this box of being like, he's crazy and he's just going through a breakdown. And although he's saying some very factual and truthful stuff, it's going to fall on deaf ears for a lot of people.
Yeah, because of his delivery.
Yeah,
I feel like that's always been his downfall. The way he communicates, like what he says could be the perfect answer, but it loses validity whenever you fuck it up with your delivery.
Yeah. And I think, he has a valid point about the contracts and everything. Like Terica said, this isn't a new subject. And many artists have spoken out against it. Some have gone to extremes like Prince with the slave on his face and stuff like that. And Michael, and speaking out against Sony and Tommy Mottola and everybody. So I think I think it's interesting, and I am seeing some people kind of come to his aid, kind of like, hey, like he's saying the truth, like, you know, this is what I went through, and even people I know have spoke up on social media in the industry that have been like, I'm in one of those deals right now, you know. So it's just it's unfortunate, and I do think, I hope that this with the whole movement of like Black Lives Matter and everything that's going on in the world, with just the different organizations and different things we're fighting for, hopefully this will be a part where they'll start kind of maybe looking at overhauling the industry in a sense, because we're already in like a weird spot now. So it's like, we might as well just go ahead and like kind of restructure it or whatever. So I do hope there's some type of restructuring that may come, and if not, a lot of these major labels better get ready to like possibly start like losing people, because a lot more people are just getting a lot people are getting more privy to how things are with the internet, and all the information's out there, and a lot of people coming up are looking like, oh, I don't necessarily need these people and this company as much. Like, it still works, but it's like there's other avenues now. So yeah.
Right. And it all comes down to educating yourself. Like, I was watching somebody talk about this, and they were like, well, at the end of the day, it comes down to them taking advantage of your ignorance. Like, you make the conscious decision to sign the contract. So you have a certain level of responsibility too as an artist. So you can't just put it all on them.
Yeah. I think, I'm so sorry. You can go ahead.
No, go ahead.
No, but I also think you got to remember, like, early 90s, getting a record deal was like you had hit the lotto, right? So a lot of those entertainers that may have been born into poverty or into hard situations, they didn't think that they would get another opportunity, because think about it, it was a slim chance to none that you got in front of these executives. And so they just rolled the dice, and, you know, that's what they did. And unfortunately, it's backfiring on a lot of them in a lot of ways. I think this newer generation, the difference is they don't need them. If anything, the labels need them. And so, because they have so many opportunities, whether it's social media, right now, this is the best time, because you can be in a virtual space, have a whole concert, you got social media to promote yourself. So like, there's more, you're not dependent upon these people to change your life anymore. It's not. So, you know, you'll see an uptick in people being more independent and starting their own stuff. But I think back in the day, it was just one of those things of like, you know, I got this opportunity to be in front of this executive, and I don't know if I'll ever get this again, and my family needs to get out of this situation. So they just did what they thought was best and what was smart.
And it's two different times. Like, it's like now, I still don't like to throw fault on nobody for signing them. Like, I think now you might have a little bit more fault on you today, because
most definitely today.
The information's out there, and you've heard stories upon stories upon stories upon stories of artists in these deals, like back from the 70s, 80s, 90s. So like, there really isn't an excuse now, like, not to know like what you're signing and all that kind of stuff. But back then, it was a little bit easier to get bamboozled, because the information wasn't readily available out there like it is now. Like Terica said, it was rare to get in front of somebody. Now you can send an email, you can get on Instagram, you can, like, it wasn't that back then, you know? So it's unfortunate, but it's like times change. And like I said, I mean, they need to restructure where, I don't know if you guys realize, but every 10 years, I don't know if we mentioned this in the last one, but every 10 years, like, the industry kind of goes through a change. And like, it's 2020 now, and before, in like 2010, there was a transition with the digital, and the jobs were scarce and everything. So now I feel like we're in that spot again because of the pandemic and everything that's going on. So it's going to take some new ideas.
Right. All right. Our next topic, the lovely couple or ex-couple, Cardi and what's the name? Offset, one of the Amigos.
Offset. Hey, don't do
I always feel like I'm gonna say the wrong one. But yeah, so they finally broke up. Cardi filed for divorce, which is not a surprise if you know about their tumultuous relationship. As we all know, he cheated and begged for her to come back, interrupted her performance and all that. But yeah, so there's a rumor that they were breaking up because he had a baby on the way. But Cardi recently said that that was a lie, and she's just tired of arguing. So yeah.
Well, sorry. I don't really care about like all of that, so I'm gonna leave it to you two. Because I haven't really been paying attention to that, and I honestly don't really care.
Yeah, I mean, to be very honest with you, you know, I hate, first of all, as a married woman, I hate when anybody like goes through this, especially because you've been with this person, you built a life with them, and you know what comes with all of that. Like, you know, now you got to separate your life. You got to learn a whole new life all over again without that person. However, I'm all for people's peace and their sanity, and if splitting up is what, you know, she felt was necessary for her own peace and her own journey, then, you know, kudos to her for doing that. You know, there's always a lesson and stuff, regardless if you feel like it isn't or not. Like if you feel like the relationship was fruitful or not, at the end of the day, you learn some form of a lesson. You got to experience something that most people in a lifetime will never get to experience, which is love with someone else and, you know, getting married. And so, you know, kudos to her for finding her voice. And the other thing that I was telling people was that people got to stop thinking that cheating is the only reason why people like split up. Like if you look at, you know, stats, like cheating is probably like third or fourth on the list, but usually it's like communication is number one, finance is number two. So like we got to stop thinking and assuming that people just leaving because somebody cheating on them. No, because it's not always the main reason why people leave situations. It's just not.
Very well stated, Terica Jackson.
Yeah, I mean, I hate it for her though, because it's like being a celebrity, like you don't, because I hope I'm saying her name right. Berkeley's, is that how you say it? Berkeley's, I believe.
Why are we saying her real name?
But I'm saying she is a real person, right? And
right.
She's gonna have to deal with this. Not Cardi. Like Cardi will bounce back. The image will bounce back. Like if anything, this is gonna take her image to a whole nother level because she's single and she could build a whole album, a whole nother leg of music on this whole situation. Like she back, you know what I'm saying? Like she could do a whole thing. So Cardi, the entertainer, will bounce back. She'll be fine. And I even think what Offset, he'll be fine. Like eventually, like, because people, it's celebrities, people forget all that stuff. Like it'll be a moment in time. Like how many people still walking around talking about Britney and Justin? Not me. Right. We remember it, but it ain't a thing. You know what I'm saying? Like people move on, but them as individuals, they'll have to heal. It's like real people, and I hate that, you know, it has to play out in the public because, you know, people are not nice in those situations, and people have just said some very nasty things that I know, like personally, they probably had to, you know, they probably feel some type of way about, but unfortunately, there's nothing you can do about that, you know.
Right. I just don't like how I feel like with Cardi, her life overshadows the talent and her work. I just feel like she kind of seems like a glorified reality TV star that just happens to be a rapper.
Well, that's what they built it on, though.
Yeah.
Like that, they built her whole brand on that outspoken and she's crazy and she says whatever and she, you know, she's, oh my God, I love her. Yeah. And like that's what it is. Unfortunately, like it turned into that monster, and like she's an artist too, but like that's gonna overshadow like most of it, you know.
Yeah. Sadly.
And I find it interesting how I have been looking at like social media and just seeing how into it people are, and I'm like, wow, I'm like, y'all don't even know these people. Like it's just
right. The comments have been crazy.
Yeah. And I'm like, wow. And like a side note, this is something else we can talk about another time, but I always think it's a bad idea to when like artists and stuff are like dating somebody and they're all in their videos and they're in all their promotional stuff and everything, and then they end up breaking up, and it's just, it always looks weird to me because it always seems kind of strange to me because I'm just like, this stuff is like set in a moment in time now, and it's like, you know, you were all over the place with like, oh, we're in love, and I don't know, it's just, I mean, that can happen with anybody, but I think it's like when you put it out front, it's like it just change. I don't know, it just kind of changes everything. But I don't know where I was going with that, but yeah.
We follow you, but yeah, it's a moment in time, and now you're gonna be synonymous with this person. If you once you move on, everybody's gonna be comparing. It's gonna haunt you. Absolutely. And then, you know, the next person might be the person of your dreams, but and it might be what if they're an entertainer, and then people be like, oh, y'all should collab. It might actually be a musical match made in heaven for y'all to collab, but because it didn't work out the last time, you're gonna be apprehensive and it's just a lot of things you have to think about when you roll the dice and start putting your relationship out there, especially in your music or your craft.
Yeah.
Right.
But best of luck to them, though, both of them.
Yeah, I hope they can be amicable for culture, because at the end of the day, I feel like she's the one that's going to experience the most loss. So yeah, hope they figure it out. Next up,
they both got money, so she'll be all right. Now I'm just playing.
Oh my gosh. Okay, so that's a whole other conversation for another day, because I would go down a rabbit hole. But anyway, so I don't know about y'all, but I'm a Power fan, and our topic of today is Mary. So of course we had to bring up the fact that she is a new character on Power. It's
a spinoff, right, of Power.
Yeah. So okay, here's the thing: it's Power Book 2 Ghost. So technically, like you said, it is a spinoff, but they use the same theme song. Joe gave y'all the best he got on that theme song. But yeah, it's kind of weird because it feels like it's still Power because it's still in the title and they still have the same theme song. But technically, yeah, you're right. It's called Ghost. And Mary's character is basically, she's the queen pin running shit. And I think it's interesting because like I've seen her act in things, but I feel like this is like the perfect role for her because I feel like she could possibly be doing this in like real life. Like that's how good she is at this. I think it fits her personality. Come on now.
I haven't seen it yet, but I think it's cool that we're seeing Mary like in a lot more things, acting wise or whatever. Mm-hmm. And I know she has some type of like production deal or something with someone, I think, to like, produce her own content and stuff. So that'll be interesting to see moving forward, like where she goes in the film and TV world, because she's already done made a little waves, like she's been nominated for a couple of things and stuff like that, and so it'd be interesting to see where she goes with that.
Yeah. I don't watch Power, and I've not seen an episode of this one. It's not that I don't want to. I got this whole thing with binge watching TV shows, and like I get off, and then if I get mad when I like miss an episode, and then so it's a thing for me. It's on my list of things to go back and watch. I never watch one episode. I just know the theme song because I'm a huge Joe fan, so that's the only reason why I know it. And then I know the fiasco with Tremaine. So anyways, but anyways, to Rashad's point, like I'm glad that she's doing that. I think that this is like the perfect time, like as far as, her music. Mary's at a place in her career, she can release music if she wants to. If she doesn't, she doesn't have to. This might be something that she's really into, acting. And so it's good to see her in another lane. It's just good to see an artist evolve, period. And so for her to do this is perfect for her. I mean, like to Rashad's point again, we've seen her in other things. She's gotten some rave reviews. And so hopefully Power takes her career to the next level. So yeah.
Next thing you know, we'll be getting a album from her inspired by Power Book 2.
Right. Hey, I'm here for it. For it. I want her and Method Man to do another song together because he's on the show too. He's a lawyer. So seeing them like do interviews and stuff, I'm just like, can we just get back in the studio and make this happen again?
Yeah. They have a really good chemistry because of course, all I need. And then when she came back again, when she got back with Puff and they did that song together, they had really good chemistry on that song. So they just work really good together. So it'll be interesting to see that. But yeah.
Well, I guess we're going to the main subject at hand. All right. And this is Mary J. Blige's Mary J. Blige. Blige. This is her third studio effort, and it's entitled Share My World.
Share my world. So we decided to do Share My World, and so eventually at some point we will do a deep dive on Mary and her entire career. However, for our first ever, I guess, album we dissect the album. We decided to do Share My World because of how pivotal the album was for the artist, also the impact to the industry as well as the culture, and overall it's just a very nostalgic album. I know for all three of us, I can remember for sure being in my mom's car and I Can Love You comes on and I would blast it up because that was just my joint. And I just remember that entire period. I remember my mom being a huge fan of Waiting to Exhale and the soundtrack. I just remember it's a nostalgic time. 96, 97, 98 were nostalgic time periods for me. And so this album just takes me back to that place of being in elementary and riding in the car with my mom and thinking I know what I was talking about in them songs and no clue what the songs we're talking about. So we're gonna get right into it. So the foundation of the album, let's start there. So
let's set the scene.
So she's fresh off of My Life. And we know that was a big album for her. I think at that point, people were giving her this title of the Queen of Hip Hop Soul. You know,
it was dark, it was broodier, it was you know, like it was the relationship problems, it was the, you know, pain, like everything that's synonymous with her was like she had basically got those titles like after that album, after that second album. Yeah.
And I think for that album, we were still kind of like getting to know Mary. And I think she was contributing to the work that was being done, but I think she wasn't the main like voice or for the direction of her albums, because you could see the influence from those around her. Sorry.
Right. I was about to say, well, Diddy was like the one that him those first two, and you could definitely tell like it was somebody was directing that. But yeah.
Absolutely. And that even comes into like her image, the type of songs that she was releasing. You remember I think she had a lot of remakes on those first two albums. You know, the heavy sampling of older records, which you know Puff is like synonymous with. And so we get to this album. Foundationally, she parts from Uptown. At this point, she's no longer under Harrell and their label. She also parts ways with Puff at this point as a manager, and Steve Stout comes in as her manager. And then there was another pivotal thing that happened during that time.
She's like, she becomes executive producer over this album.
Absolutely.
Yeah. This is her first time, I guess, like leading the charge on her own music.
Absolutely. Yeah. It's her and Steve. They do this. And so if you don't know who Steve Stout is, you probably have heard Jay-Z says, tell Stout to holla at me, man. I'm focused, man. He's talking about Steve Stout. Steve Stout was also Nas's manager at the time. I believe he's also the manager for the Trackmasters as well. And so it just kind of made sense for her to, she needed a new manager. And at the time, Steve was hot. We later go on to know that Steve is like huge for marketing and you know, he does some really huge things in the music industry during that period, the 90s. And so she teams up with him and she gives us Share My World. And so let's start with,
it was a very, the album overall is just a very marked departure from the first two albums. This is Mary J. Blige becoming a lot more mainstream, and her kind of not necessarily leaving the hip hop soul thing, but like transitioning into more of contemporary R&B. And it's just interesting. I look at this record I look at it as a transition album. Or whatever. It's what it feels like, because it's like it still has traces of the hip hop influence, but it's not as heavy. And then you hear her over like some different sounds. You hear her vocals are different, her approach to singing is different. You hear more of like jazz influences in this, and then just it's a lot of new collaborators for her. First time with Babyface and Jimmy Jam and Terry Lewis and Darkchild, and but like Terry said, you still had Trackmasters with it who worked with her before, and I believe there's somebody else. Yeah.
Those are the main ones. Like Poke was on the previous album. Those are the main ones that worked on the previous album. Yeah.
So yeah, I agree with the transition, what you said. But I feel like not just musically, it was a transition for her, like personally. I feel like she became grown and sexy. You saw a lot more of her feminine side, and she just took a left turn. And I feel like it was for the better.
Yeah, the album's definitely like lighter as well in subject matter. Like, I mean, it's still some stuff on there, like some heartbreak and all that, but like it's just way different than the album before, you know. And Keisha, like you were saying, like the styling and everything, it's just a lot different. I guess I didn't even think about it. I guess it did become a little bit more soft and feminine and
yeah.
things like that. So,
it was more about less about the heartbreak, more about the love, more about the want or need for love and
life.
And life. Absolutely.
Yeah.
She talked
and self-love too.
Absolutely. And we started to kind of see that on the My Life album. You started to feel that transition in some of the things she was talking about. Like you knew what she was wanting in her life at that time. And then I feel like on Share My World, she was like, look, I'm going for it at this point. And so really, really, really good album. So let's talk about the impact to Mary's career for this album. I feel like this particular album, this is when we know she's here to stay at this point. Like she was titled the Queen of Hip Hop Soul, but at this point I feel like this album truly made her like the reigning Queen of Hip Hop Soul at that point.
Like it definitely showed that she wasn't a one-trick pony, you know. I thought she could have easily fell into just being hip hop soul kind of, you know, that kind of thing. And I think we talk about it all the time. She is one of the few artists that have been able to reinvent herself over time. And I feel like this is the first reinvention we see of her, the very first one. But
yeah. So I think also for her during this time, what was important was, as you mentioned, she was the executive producer for the album. And I feel like she was finally being able to tell her story and let her fans really get to know her. And then from there, that's the one thing about Mary. We know, like we feel almost as if she's like an auntie. Like you feel very connected to her. And I think that was like an intentional decision. Like she is very strategic about connecting with her fans, with their pain, with their happiness, when she tells her stories through her songs. And like this album really made her connect with them even more, because she was like, hey, this is where I am in my life. You know what I'm saying? These are the things that I'm going through. And so she was literally sharing her world, even though the song itself is talking about sharing her love. Right. And she literally was sharing her world with her fans.
And another great thing about the album is that what a lot of artists have a hard time doing is when they are kind of transitioning into something new with their music or sound or whatever. She was still able to please the hardcore fans that she had already built up, like her core base. But then she still satisfied them by bringing them into some new stuff, but also like she was able to grab like a whole other like group of audience or a whole other group of people or whatever, like to become fans of hers. And I think that's really cool because a lot of artists have problems with that, and they really have problems when they're like trying to split the albums, like, well, this is for these type of fans and this word. But she kind of did it where she just fused it really well and was able to make that transition like very, very smooth.
So yeah, so we get this album. For her, I believe this was like the setup to show that she was here to stay. And then it just birthed a string of albums for her after this. You start seeing her like people want to work with Mary at this point. Like she is the go-to person. You want to work with her. You want to have her on a record. And so for the industry, the impact, what do we think the impact for the industry actually was? Let's segue into that.
I don't know.
I haven't thought about that.
I haven't thought about that one. Impact on the industry.
For me,
she was kind of. Oh, go ahead.
For me, I think she created a lane, right?
I was just about to say that. I was about to say, she was kind of the first of her kind. Like she is the first that. So, because we can name all the artists that come after her that's like reminiscent. You know, and
that she birthed, yeah.
And you don't want to make light, of like it's different, but it's the same, because when you think of like an Angie Stone, that pain, singing through that pain, and like
Right.
it's kind of reminiscent. That Betty Wright is very reminiscent. However, that merger of that real like hip hop street and that R&B, nobody did it like Mary.
But that's what I was about to say. I was like, I don't want to discredit the people that inspired her, you know, the Anita Bakers and Shaka Khans and stuff, because you obviously see where her influences lie. But she is, like you said, she's the first to put them together, like that old school like soul R&B, and then the new school hip hop R&B, and put that together. So yeah, she's kind of the first in that lane, and kind of birthed like a new lane, basically.
It's so funny that you said it, because when we sit here and I think of, because automatically who comes to mind is, you know, Keisha Cole. And
that was the first one that came to mind to me too.
And then I think about how they've released their albums and like their Moment of Truth albums. Keisha kind of had that as well, like that album, like this is who I am and this is where I am type of thing. And I feel like their whole careers have been kind of patterned after her. I mean, you need to see the influence a little bit with Monica as well, on her songs that she's released. And so, yeah, I feel like her impact, especially with this album, was she created a lane for other artists that like, maybe they weren't powerhouse singers, but you connected with the pain in their songs, in their music. Right. You connected with the realness in the songs that they have. So I think that, for me, that's the impact to the industry.
And you know what? I'm glad you brought that up, because a lot of critics at that time, when the Share My World album came out, they all mentioned how like they felt like she was, the first two albums, she was just a sound, as far as like just like her vocal, you know, her vocal, she wasn't considered like this technical singer or anything like that. Like she just had a sound that worked and was different. But then like they felt like with this album, it was more technique and more emoting singing, and like just a lot, like it's just a different approach to her singing. So I agree with that too, Terry.
Absolutely. Yeah, I think this you have to look at her a little bit differently as far as singing. One of the tracks that we'll talk about later on is the track that she has with R. Kelly, and I was like, I felt like she was trying to like really sing a little bit on that song. I felt like she was pulling at something a little bit differently in that song, and so we'll talk about that later. But so we got that. We got the impact to the culture, the impact to her career, and so also, Keisha, you wanted to briefly touch on, because we can't forget this, her image. You know, you mentioned femininity. You mentioned that, like, you know, she was not, you know, dressing in the Timbs anymore, where she might have been, but it was very sexy, very sexy.
And even if you notice in the videos and stuff, some of the videos, she's a lot more like graceful and flowy and stuff. You know, it's totally a different thing. Yeah,
it seems like she's free. Like I feel like she had just got out of a breakup or whatever, and you see like she's exploring what real love is. Like in the Everything video, it's a lot of like nature and her in these like beautiful dresses and stuff, all these different colors, and it's a very big contrast to the other videos before that. So I think it's interesting how like they chose that and went a totally different direction. And I know like whenever artists do like projects like this, it's very like nerve-wracking, and you know they have anxiety and stuff because they don't know how people are going to take it. But I feel like this was the best thing that could happen to her. I think this pushed her into the right direction.
I mean, it feels like a natural progression. It doesn't feel forced, and it doesn't feel like they were like, let's just try this out. Like it really felt like this was where it was naturally going, like her trajectory.
Yeah, and where she was at life in general, just growing as a grown woman.
And I think you saw like, I mean, shout out to, because I'm sure she had other designers as well, but we know Misa was like vital in her career as far as her image and her look. And I think this was like big for Misa as well, like creating, we have seen so many people like recreate these looks, even like these are iconic looks. I mean, the bang, the swoop, the bang, the glasses, I mean, the dark shades, you know, the real like, you know, you know, if you gonna dress, you gonna be Gucci down. You gonna be, you know, all the way. And so like they were like creating something, what Puff likes to call like that Black excellence. Like they were just really giving you that in like images, like what it would be
right
image of Black excellence. And so I think I mean her look at this point became just iconic. Like people are still dressing up like this for Halloween. I'm just people are. But yeah. So let's get into the album. Like I think we talked about impact, all that good stuff, but let's get into the album. So we start off with track 1. Well, we start off with the intro. And I think we joked about it before starting, but like it was super theatrical.
Yeah. Dramatic as hell.
It was like a montage with you know, without audio montage, but because they were trying to build up like all the things that she had done, and you know, she's at this status now. She's not just married anymore. She's coming to her own at this point. So that's track 1. That's the intro.
Yeah, it's just the intro.
So then we get into I think this is probably right.
It's one of my favorite songs.
Who gonna let me like I do, huh? Right. if this does not take you back, I don't know what it like if it doesn't. But we get into I Can Love You, featuring Lil' Kim. Again, Lil' Kim, this same beat was taken off of her song that she had on her first album, Hardcore, and they just redid it. This is early Rodney Jerkins Dark Child production on this, so much so that like the Rodney that we came to know is almost you don't even recognize it.
Yeah, I wouldn't have even guessed that was Dark Child that produced that.
Yeah, I didn't know that.
I love the production. Like that's one of my favorite things about that song. Like all the different stuff that's in there, like throughout it, and then like the melodies, and I don't know. I just love everything about that song. And then Lil' Kim's verse is like really good, and just it adds to it. It's not like, you know how some songs like they add a rapper and it literally feels like they just like threw them on there, like and it doesn't really add anything to the song. Like her, I feel like it adds to the song. Like I feel like it's needed in there, and yeah, I love it.
Yeah, I feel like that song was like, if we think about when it was released or when it was recorded, and we think about or the stories that we've heard about Kim and her situation with Big, I was like, this song just is almost like it's telling a story without like you.
I didn't even think about that.
I didn't either.
I mean, she, you know, the stuff that she's saying in there, like, you know, who gonna love you like I do? Like who gonna ride for you like me? And she was like, she was coming with it.
You can feel that. She meant it. She said that with her chest.
What you gonna do, huh?
Huh? What?
Looking on your Ninja Honda with Tanisha and Rhonda. I don't know who Tanisha and Rhonda is, but listen, they felt that. But yeah, so she again, she samples, or they sample Queen Bitch. That's the name of the record that Kim had, and then they just make it into something new. Which again, that just shows you like in the 90s. Because the song wasn't that far removed from when it was released, version, but it sounds like a whole new song.
It sounds like a completely new song.
Like you can't even, like, they're just two separate records in their own right. Like you don't, it was just done, it was flawless how they did that. So that song gets released. We see her in the video. She is a little bit more feminine. She has on, you know, she's got on heels, she's got on pantsuit. But
it's still got that edge though. You know what I'm saying? It's still hard. It's still, because her posture and everything is still like, you know, all that. And
she still hit her dance.
Yeah. So it's like, it's still, that's what's really cool about this era with her, because like, it's like I said, it's transitioning, but she still keeps the edge and everything that made her popular and everything like that. So
yeah, you see that she doesn't try to become something else. She remains true to who she is and maintains the true essence of Mary.
Yeah, and also big thing on here we didn't mention, but on this album you definitely her sister is doing a lot of the background vocals on here as well.
Right.
Also on this album, it'll come later, but Shanice is also doing background vocals on this album as well. And so yeah, I think on this particular song, this is one of the songs that her sister is singing backgrounds on. But I was like, you could have fooled me.
I think she helped write too.
Yeah, she did. She wrote this album. Yeah, you could have fooled me. I thought it was all married.
Right. And like those are some really good backgrounds on that song. Like that's some of my favorite ones that Mary's done. Well, one of my favorite song. I don't know what I'm trying to say, but anyways, it's some of my favorite backgrounds for a Mary song. That's what I was trying to say. But yeah, so you got I Can Love You, which again is iconic, timeless song. You can put that bop on now and just everybody just
yes.
go there for it. So you got that first song. Then we go into the next track, which is Love Is All We Need, featuring Nas. Again, I mentioned Steve Stout is also representing Nas at the same time, so that absolutely that pairing made sense. Nas was on fire during this time because this is like you know, Illmatic era, and like he's on fire. He's the hottest thing, and so it just made sense to put them on here. Also, this is like sampling one of Rick James's songs, the beat itself. And this is also Rashad's favorite duo on this track, Jimmy Jam and Terry Lewis. This is to the album. So they produced a lot of wonderful things for Mary, but and this is one of them. I do think this is one of those songs that's reminiscent of the hip hop soul thing, but it was still like brought up to something. It was still something new to it, but that's one of the ones that felt like, because I think, if I'm not mistaken, this was like supposed to be or was kind of like the first single, but like it's got a video, but I don't know if it like really became a single. But I felt like probably the thought process behind it was probably like, let's put this out like to, you know, so it's not too different, it's not too off, but yeah, I like the song. It's a good song. Yeah, I think when they released it, I think it was like one of those things of like, it was a smart move as far as like the place that Nas was in, the beat itself was like recognizable, so it just and Jimmy Jam and Terry Lewis, of course, hot, because think about it, at that time Rodney was hot because of like some of the stuff he had did with Bad Boy early on, but he wasn't Jimmy Jam Terry Lewis at the time. So it sounds like a smarter decision to go that way. However, I think if you compare the two songs, I Can Love You, definitely the standout.
Yes.
Definitely the standout. So and then there was a remix as well with Foxy on there, like a separate remix, and so there was that song that we had. And so we move on to the next track, which is Round and Round.
That's another one that's like reminiscent of the hip hop soul kind of feel a little bit. That one's cool. I like that one. I don't look at it as like, oh my God, but it's not bad either. Like I can listen to it. Like I like it.
Yeah, DJ Premier was a writer on here, as well as Poke from Tony Poke Trackmasters, as well as Jay-Z. He also wrote on here. And so this is not it's not going to be the first or last time we see Jay-Z contribute his writing skills to Mary J. Blige. It happens throughout her career. A couple of times we see him writing for her. This song for me, it just was like, okay, it's an album filler. It's just a song.
Same. I was like, Slick don't even remember that track. But I mean, that's also not a bad thing, because you know, you remember like good and bad stuff. So it's like, okay, so it was straight, I guess.
Yeah, like it's like, okay, like if it's on, I won't skip it. Like I'm like,
right.
Okay,
I didn't skip it at all. But like, I have no recollection of that. And
if my opinion is that it's Tone and Poke, right? And my opinion is the stuff that they produced for the album is the weakest. And not to say that it's bad, but I think that they might have been stuck in the previous stuff that they did with her, and I don't know if they, like I said, they're not bad songs, but I think that they're probably the weakest ones on the album, to be honest.
I feel like I definitely agree with what you're saying. I feel like previous albums, their songs would have like flowed very well because of like the rest of the album. Like they just flowed well with what she was doing. This album, it was just like, okay, we want to just continue to hold on to this whole image of like hip hop in there, and it sometimes it felt like out of place. the beats. It sounded very out of place on this album because you leave Round and Round, and then you got the interlude for Share My World, where she's talking about, a black man, black woman, black love. She's talking about the love of having a family. And then we move into the Share My World, the record, again written and produced by Rodney.
Rodney Darktown Jerkins.
Right. Again, it's so funny because when I think of this song, I automatically, my mind goes to the episode on Jamie Foxx.
Yeah. When they perform it.
Right.
And if you think about it, that song almost sounds like a Brandy song off of Never Say Never.
It does.
The production almost sounds like it. Yeah.
And this is, so let's see, this album releases in 97, so they're recording 95, 96.
They're recording, yeah.
Yeah, and then Never Say Never doesn't come out till 98, right?
Yeah.
So you can see him starting to kind of get his own sound and get his own, bearings there. So Share My World, which is probably my third favorite song on the album. I just like the way it makes me feel. I was
about to say, it's a great feeling, the feel of it. It's very chill, it's very smooth, and I like it. I think it's a good song. I do think this is one of the standout album tracks for people.
Yeah, it is.
The song itself definitely, again, nostalgic. I remember riding around in the car on the road trip and hearing this song. Like, it just reminds you of that time period, 97. The groove of it reminds you of the 90s. It just absolutely does. So we move from there. We go into what I like to say is, first of all, Mary, I want to apologize to you for not appreciating this song earlier. I think until you go through life, or until you understand the lyrics of the song, you do not appreciate 7 Days. You just don't. Musically, I've always been
right. Musically, yeah. It
hit different as an adult, but it hit different as fuck.
Yeah.
But the sonically, you have George Benson on here who, golly, I put, out of Mary songs, I put this one next to My Life because of sonically how they sound. It's coming on it like that, how they sound sonically. I want
to say that with 7 Days, this is the only song that's written and produced by Malik Pendleton on this album. Yeah. And I'm just kind of why didn't y'all do any more? I'm curious what more collaborations would have sounded like, because that to me this is the standout song on the album. I think for me, just like you said, sonically, it's just totally different than what at that time what we had heard Mary on. And it's it's got all the jazz influences in it, with the flute in the background, and then the guitar and everything. And George
That's
Benson.
My part, the guitar. I love that part.
The guitar. And then you can hear George Benson in the backgrounds, singing with her on some parts.
But I think this is the beauty of this album, because you really got to see the jazz influences in her voice. You got to hear the Ella Fitzgerald inspo. You got to hear all of that in this particular song. And it just made sense for this album. If you wanted to really show that she can hold her own as a singer, this was the song that displayed that for me. I feel like she was really showing her vocal ability on this song.
And this is probably my favorite song on the album. I would say one of my favorite Mary songs, but probably my favorite song on this album. And I can't get enough of it. When it comes on, I just feel like I'm in a lounge somewhere, smoky, and then you're all depressed with a glass of whiskey or something. You just bobbing your head like that.
Right. And lyrically.
Yeah, lyrically, it's a very well written song. Very creative.
To take it from a perspective, first of all, during that time period, that was a risky song to talk about you as a woman, really taking it there with this guy that is a friend of yours. You had heard it, that kind of subject matter before, but I think from her, it was just it was vulnerable. it was like really vulnerable that song.
Yeah.
But yeah, I'm like you, Rashad. When I hear it, it just automatically I get into like a zone.
Yeah, and it's like the concept is really good, and but the way they wrote the concept is very creative.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And even the video. We have to talk about the video.
Yeah.
It's not one of my
It's
favorites.
definitely. Wait, what were you saying?
It's not one of my favorite videos. I actually was kind of let down by the video, but
Yeah, the video isn't all that, but like it's definitely relatable content. And I feel like sometimes with certain songs, like you don't have to do much with the video because the song is amazing on its own. And I feel like that was one of those situations. Especially
during that time, because a lot of times that was the only time you heard the song, whether it was like they played it on the radio or you heard it in the video. We didn't have access to like listen to it whenever we wanted. So like I excused those type of videos back then because I'm like, well, we just looking at it really to hear the song. You know, you don't have to do too much, but yeah.
Ooh, this is definitely the height of the Quiet Storm era because they hear this on the Quiet Storm. But when I say like risky, I think when I think about songs during that time, like women, like I don't know, to like her subject matter sometimes was just like, oh girl, you talking about that, but like
right, she said what everybody has gone through at least once.
Yeah, you talking about that, but again, she ushered that in as well. You start to see more people feel more writers, you know, being vulnerable in what they're writing. And so again, really good song. It was actually the last single released from the album. It wasn't released, or the actual video wasn't filmed until 98, so it was the very last single. And it's ironic to me. I wonder what made them release it as the last single.
I'm curious too, because I'm sitting here thinking about it, I'm like, again, that's the only song collaboration with that guy who wrote and produced it. I'm kind of like, I'm wondering like what, like I wonder if they did more and it just didn't make the album, or I wonder why there wasn't more they did together, because it's just such an interesting song. But like you said, it's wait, what did you say?
I just wonder why they released it as the last single. Like, what made them go back?
Oh yeah.
Make them go back and say, let's do this one, because out of all the songs, none of the other songs that were released. Because I'm not gonna count "Not Gonna Cry," like I'm not, because that was just like she did that for a soundtrack and it happened in the album. But to release this song after you released all the other songs that you released that don't sound anything remotely close, is I'm
curious too.
Yeah, I'm curious why they did. But it also is a good setup. I mean, after this album, she has that tour album, but it also is a good setup for the Mary album, where, you know, you hear her vocally singing more, and you hear the jazz influences on that album as well. So I don't know. I wonder why they released it so late, and was it like a, you know how sometimes like it's a fan favorite and then they go back and be like, we just gonna release this. I wonder, was it one of those situations?
Yeah.
Cool. So transitioning to It's On with featuring R. Kelly. At this point, 97, Robert was on fire.
Oh yeah, on fire as an artist and a writer and producer.
Yeah, he was everywhere.
He was on fire, and I think to have him on your album was almost like you knew you had a hit.
You had a hit.
Yeah, that was like standard. Was an R. Kelly track was gonna be on the album during that time. Yeah.
For me, I felt like, because you know, I don't think I've ever disputed if R. Kelly can sing. And I wouldn't even say he's one of my top male vocalists. Like, I forget how good of a singer he is at times. But on here, I felt like he was really singing. Like, I felt like he was really like vocally giving it to the people.
Yeah,
he felt that.
Yeah. So thinking of tracking, you got 7 Days that comes just before that. And then before that, you have Share My World. One of the things that we haven't touched on is like the order of the track list. Do we feel like it's kind of like all over the place a little bit, or it's just like we just gonna throw a song here, throw a song there?
I feel like it's funny you say that. Well, we ain't gotten to the part yet, but I would say after, I feel like it's all tracked very well.
Same.
Until after everything. I feel like that's when it starts to get like muddy. But I feel like up to like track 11, I feel like it's put together very well. But after that, it gets a little weird to me.
Cool. Okay, so you have the duet with R. Kelly, which I like. Again, I think the song made sense for her as far as a collaboration. He was hyped, he was on fire. He wrote the song. She sounded good on the song. Cool. We put it there. I don't think it's like it might not be a standout on the album, but I feel like going back to it now, I can appreciate the song.
Yeah, like it works.
Yeah, their vocals, I can appreciate it. So then we move on. She has the interlude, Thank You Lord, with her and Rodney. It's just traditional 90s interlude that we would.
It is.
Back in the day, you're gonna either have a prayer at the beginning, the end. We're gonna sing a song for Big Mama.
Yeah, I was like, they either gonna say the prayer or sing the prayer, right? And like, I mean, to be honest with you, I didn't care for the interludes on this album. I feel like they weren't really needed. But there are some albums where interludes work very, very well, and it helps set up like the sections of the album.
They tell the story.
Yeah.
It, to me, kind of came out of nowhere because you
right.
just talk about going there with somebody. It's on today.
Right. That placement wasn't. I don't think that was a good transition.
Yeah, I understand it. So then we move on to her first Babyface song on here, which is Missing You.
I think I love this song. I really like it. I think this is a classic Babyface song. Like, as soon as the track comes on, it sounds like, I'm like, oh, you can tell Babyface like produced this. But and wrote it. But like, I don't know, I really like it. I think it works for her. I think this song was like really different for her too. At the same time, like just the type of like sound it was, ballad it was. I don't know, it's like your classic Babyface like slow jam kind of song, but it was kind of different for her at that time to me. Yeah.
When people say Missing You, I always sometimes get it confused with Faith's Missing You. That was on the and Faith is not even saying Missing You, sorry, she's saying Kissing You, but I always like the melody. I always think she's saying Missing You. But anyways, yeah, typical Babyface song for me. Typical Babyface song. Made sense with the theme of the album thus far. Like, definitely made sense. We start off, I can love you, like, why you going to this girl? Love is all we need, when she's, hey, this is all we need to make our thing work. You know what I'm saying? Round and round, okay, I'm telling the story how we just keep going through this circle over and over again. Then share my word, like, create this life with me. You like, let's have this together. Then she goes into 7 days where she, has this moment. She didn't went there. It's on, they didn't went there at this point. It's on, and then of course we say Thank You Lord doesn't make any sense to us. What the placement, and then Missing You is simply talking about that, that person that she, it just makes sense for the album. But again, Rashad, I feel like he could have gave that song to somebody else and it would have worked the same.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. He could have gave it to anybody and it would have worked. But I like that song. Like I like it. I like everything about it. But yeah.
All right, then we move into.
This is my favorite on this album.
This is just another.
Which one is this?
Everything.
Oh, Everything. Oh, I love this song. So another Jimmy Jam and Terry Lewis exclusive.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
It is a stylistic sample, which that has been a sample that many people have used before. Nobody has quite done it like Mary. I think her sampling of it and LaToya's Torn are two of my favorites that have sampled.
I mean, I love the way Jimmy Jam and Terry I love the way they use that sample in the song, because like when on the verses, there's something about it that like the verse production part sounds like, I'm like, okay, this makes it contemporary, like the way they produced it. But then like when the hook and everything comes in, it's got that old feeling, but they still got a contemporary. I don't know. It's just, I really like, it's produced very, very well.
That kick, it's like a kick. Like when she's singing, it's just it's nothing there. It's not.
And that little thing in the background.
It's just her singing. And it's almost like it's intentional, like they don't want to distract you from the lyrics.
Right.
They want you to hear the lyrics. And then when it comes in with everything
it's
else,
all lush and
oh my it feels with things, even the harmonies in the background.
Yes.
All that. I'm just like, whoa, it's just a really good song.
It is.
And like the subject matter, what I really like about it is that you can take it, like a lot of people, I think she said it, but a lot of people say, you know, it's about God, and because she was kind of new to, I guess, religion or something at that time. She was getting deeper into it or something. And it's about that, but then you could also make it about, it can be about a significant other. Like, I like that it could have both meanings for whatever you want it to mean.
I love those type of songs.
Me too.
I love when they do that, especially, you know, every time I think of a song like that, dual meanings, I think of like BB and CC, who are like notorious for doing stuff like that. And so I love when people take that approach. Before we move on, we did fail to mention that on the Missing You track, that was the background vocals from Shanice on there, which is so funny because I was like, she could have took this song and probably do something well with it.
With everything, this is one of my favorite music videos. Then one of my favorite Hype Williams videos. But it's one of my favorite music videos, and I think it's beautifully shot. Great shots and settings, like they're on location in Hawaii, and like you said, the gowns and everything she was wearing, the makeup and the face jewelry and everything. Like, it's a really nice looking video, and it's one of my favorite videos.
She looks very, like, this is the first, because I didn't, I thought about it, I was like, Mary to me, like, she was always like, you know, pretty. She's never been like an ugly person, but in this video, like, you got to see features and just like even the choices of like the colors that they used on her skin tone. I think all of that like just made us really realize like she's a looker. She actually is as well.
I agree with you. You did get to see more of her beauty, I guess you could say, in this video. The way she's styled and everything, like, it's a total departure from the first two albums. So I agree.
Right, and there's nothing like distracting you from her. Like, in most of the scenes, it's like her in nature. It's not a lot of like gaudy shit going on in the background.
And it makes me nostalgic for those, because I watched that video this morning.
I did too.
And it makes me nostalgic for that time, because I'm like, wow, they're really like on location, like in this exotic looking place. And then on top of that, just the shots they got, like, I was like, some of that stuff will be digital now, like these days. Like, they wouldn't, I was like, I don't see them trying some of that stuff that they did in there. Like the one scene with her on the rock that's in the middle of all the water and the waterfall behind, I'm just like, I don't know, it just made me nostalgic for what they really used to put into, like, the work they would put into videos like back then. But
right. It actually made me think of Beyonce's like Bigger and Spirit and stuff. I was like, hold up, like, this is, why didn't I realize this when I watched the Beyonce, that this is basically everything?
I didn't think about that.
Reminded me of Keisha Cole's is it
Sent from Heaven? Yes.
But Mary, she sounded beautiful on the track. She wasn't over singing. Her voice just fit well with the production, and the video was, you know, she was gorgeous in the video. It was gorgeous. And so again, it was reminiscent of the time period, because Hype Williams did not do low budget videos.
No, it was dropping millions on videos back then.
We're gonna fly you out here to Mykonos, and we're gonna. So, moving on, next we have Keep Your Head Up. This again, her and her sister write this particular song, and Tone and Poke are on this one. They're doing the production. For me, this is another one of those like album filler type of songs.
This is my least favorite on the album.
Yeah, I feel like it's an album filler. I feel like it was like, hey, we got this song, let's just put it on the album.
Yeah, it's another one I don't remember.
Exactly. No. I agree. I this is my least favorite on the album. I skip it. So we can skip it.
Okay.
I'm just kidding.
I don't think it was a bad song. I just think
it's not a bad song.
Album, I was kind of questioning, like, okay, why is it here?
Yeah, it falls a little flat, like with the rest of the album.
Absolutely. So next we have Can't Get You Off My Mind. This is featuring The Lox. Again, I feel like, and again, this is Rodney.
There's the Puffy connection as well.
Yep, that's the Puffy connection. I kind of just feel like we gotta keep her at one foot on this side.
Right. Got to keep the true fans happy.
Yeah, and I think it's big for the likes because remember, like they were still trying to really figure out who they were as a group. So I think it was big for them to be matched with her. It still gave her that rough appeal or that street appeal.
Right.
So I think that's why this particular record made sense.
I mean, I like the record. I think it's good. I think it's one of those album tracks that I don't know if I would say it's a standout album track, but it's an enjoyable album track. Like I like it.
Yeah. So then we move on. We won't spend much time, y'all. We will deep dive on them, but if we ain't feeling them, we'll keep going. So next we get to know you better, which is actually written by Bryce Wilson, who formerly is of the group Theory. Tell me if you want me to. Right. Also, he's the guy. He's the guy in is it Beauty Shop? Yeah. He plays the male in the movie Beauty Shop with Queen Latifah. Shantae, switch. But yeah, that's Bryce. I like the song.
Yeah. Cool song.
You know.
Yeah. Another one that I would be like, they could have maybe left it off, but it's not bad. Like,
right.
Yeah.
Yeah. So him. I think it was a good song, like written by him. I think he could have gone to any artist. It's not like a pivotal moment or song on the album for me. It's absolutely one of them songs. If I was driving, it would just be playing, and I probably wouldn't even pay attention.
Yeah.
When I was shopping. Then we move on to Searching, featuring Roy Ayers. This is the second time we see her collaborate with
another jazz artist.
Yeah, another jazz. She samples Roy Ayers with My Life.
Yeah, I like this song a lot actually. I think it's a really cool song, and I love that Roy Ayers is in it, and I love that it's another song with a jazz influence because Mary whether she does it on purpose or not, it's just in her, like it's in her vocals.
It is.
So yeah.
And again, this is another one with her sister on here. This is another one with Fred Jenkins, which is Rodney's brother. Rodney is on here as well. I guess this is another one of those songs that could go like dual meanings again.
Yeah.
So I like the song. I think it's it's a little bop. It's a little bop, a little groove. But again, I think it's a full circle moment for her because, like we said, on the My Life album where she samples Roy Ayers, The Sunshine, and then to work with him on this album, it's just a full circle moment for her. So then we move on. Our Love.
Now I love this song. I don't know if I'm a big fan of her cover of it, but I can listen to it. I do think it doesn't fit the way they produced it. Doesn't fit the rest of the album. It sounds so out of place. Like, and that's just on the production alone, the way they produced it. But yeah,
to me, it just makes me feel like, okay, it makes sense. The song itself makes sense for the story that she's telling.
Right. Oh, and this is a cover of Natalie Cole for people that don't know.
Yes.
Yeah.
Makes sense for the the story that she's telling, but to me it doesn't make sense in like where it falls.
Yeah.
I'm just like, okay, so did y'all
it definitely feels like they just, I don't know, they was like, we need to cover something, like we need to cover something because she was doing them, so I'm like,
yeah, that's like her trademark.
Yeah. And I was like,
and that's the thing though, on this album, because the first two albums she was doing like a lot of the remakes and heavier sampling. On this album, not so much, and so it was just like you didn't need it. But maybe it just went along with the storyline,
right?
And so it's like, hey, what song can we put on here that makes sense for the storyline? So moving forward, which this song right here had Mamas Everywhere.
I mean, it has. Anybody could feel like they was married to somebody when you listen to this song. When I listen to this song, I be feeling like I was married for 11 years and I was the secretary.
I was mad and didn't even know why. And I was like 7, 8.
I'm like, how could you leave me at a drop of a dime? Like, I'd be like in my feelings, like I went through it.
I mean, this goes to, so of course we're talking about Not Gonna Cry, which again was on the one of the greatest soundtracks ever, Waiting to Exhale. Babyface, and we had this conversation, off camera. He has a unique way of writing a song and letting it, like, it's in somebody else's voice. You don't even know it's him. He knows how to cater that song to that artist.
Yeah, he knows how to write. Yeah, he knows how to write for artists. He doesn't impose his sound on them. Like, he writes for them. And also the way he's able to get into the minds of like a different gender or just another person, and it's legitimate. Like, he's so good, which he's another, like, he's up there with Jim Terry for me, one of my favorite producer writers. But yeah, a great song. And like, just like, I mean, I understood why they do it on the album, of course, because it was a big hit, and it's like, yeah, throw this on the album. But like, the bridge is like my favorite part of the song, and like Babyface can write some bridges. So yeah,
that bridge, I mean, just lyrically what she's saying. I know it's not, there are no guarantees, but in love you take your chances. Man. It's just like,
somehow it seems unfair to me.
I look
at the circumstances.
Right.
Man.
When I tell you, and the thing about it is, all the great tracks that were on that Waiting to Exhale album, this was the standout.
Yeah, I would agree.
This was the standout. Like, I
would agree, because I feel like it spoke to so many women. Like I mean, the whole album did, right? But like, is something different about that song. Like, it's got that edge to it. I don't know, but yeah.
Yeah, and I feel like it felt, I mean, it was basically Angela's character's like story, right. And I feel like it illustrated that perfectly. And it was just the song for the soundtrack.
But you just said something that's crazy though. You just said something that's so crazy about Babyface. We know that he's scoring the film, but this particular song, it was Mary's story. It was like he made it her story, regardless if this is what she was going through or not. You felt like this was Mary saying,
yeah,
right,
I was your lover and your secretary working everything. Like, you felt like that was Mary,
right?
Yeah.
And I think that's the genius of him, though. Like, to think about, like, who can translate.
Who can translate this song? Yeah, who's going to be able to translate? Because that's another important thing, Terica, that just a lot of people don't realize. Like, it's like you can give a song to anybody, but it's like, it's not going to, it takes like, I don't know to say what I'm saying, but it's like, like Mary J. Blige, nobody else would be able to deliver that song the way she delivered it. Like, anybody else could sing it, right? And they might do a good job, but like the way it's emoted from her and the way that her approach to it, just like how he wrote the songs for Whitney on there, like nobody else would be able to sing it the way she sings it. Yeah. And like vocal performance and emotive singing is very important to a song, because sometimes even the song could be a smash hit, right? Technically, in the way it's produced and written, but like the vocal is what's going to make it the hit or whatever. Right. Sometimes, like the way it's performed. So yeah.
And that's the thing we talk about a lot of times with like a Brandy or even a Beyonce. Regardless if Beyonce is writing these records, it's the way that she convinces you that these are her feelings and these are her how she feels about it, because she knows how to emote that emotion. Like, it just comes through. But yeah, nobody could have done this. Nobody could have done that the way that Mary did that song.
And I think, like, as a whole, to the Share My World album, I think it's a testament to show that how we started to get these new flavors of Mary, and we started to see the depth of her artistry when she moved on to newer people who she moved on. Nothing against the producers and Diddy and none of them. They were doing what they did, and it was successful work. But notice, she got with Jimmy Jam Terry, she got with Babyface, more seasoned people at that time that were more seasoned than the others or whatever, that know how to take a singer and do what needs to be done with it and produce around it and write for it, rather than, I would say, the first two albums was a lot of that hip hop soul. Is kind of like, I'm sure they like produced it and gave her the tracks and that was that, but this is more like they're like massaging it and making it for her and making it, it's a difference with like, it just shows like the power of producers and songwriters and those that know what they're doing and know how to work with certain singers and stuff like that.
Right. But we
I'm
said
just saying the other one's not. I'm just like, yeah.
No, but we said this in our Usher episode where when he worked with that group, they were very young, right? And so they were doing what they did, the method that they thought worked for them, because they had won with that method, which is we write the songs, you sing them, we put them out, right? I think that's the quality of a Babyface and Jimmy Jam, Terry Lewis is because they get with the artist and they really get to know them. And
it's tailor-made.
Yeah, it's tailor-made for them. And so they don't push themselves on them. They don't force themselves on them. Mm-hmm. We watched a clip the other day with Jimmy Jam and Terry Lewis talking about their work with Janet and like how they identify very early, like, she is a singer that you sing along with versus a Whitney where you just listen to her.
Right.
And I think the same thing happened in this situation with Mary. She is a singer that you like, I need to feel that. Like, if
you're gonna feel it.
You need to feel it, right? And she's gonna give it to you. She's gonna help you feel it. So that ends up being the last song on the album. Again, very weird placement. Almost feels like they just said, we got to put this on the album, so here's where it's going to land. Because if you're telling a story, I don't feel like it brought the story full circle.
Yeah.
I feel like it's incomplete.
It's
I feel
almost
like it depends on how you look at it, though.
Yeah, because I'm going to say, it looks like, to me, it kind of feels more like a bonus track, the way it's thrown on there. Mm-hmm. It just feels, not going to cry, it just feels like I said, it was a big smash hit the year before, so they just threw it like they're like, well, let's just throw it on here because it's gonna drive the album as well because this song is so big. So that's how I kind of just look at it as a bonus track, honestly.
Yeah, but when she re-released it or when it goes to the UK, they end up having her do "You Make Me Feel Like a Natural Woman," and that becomes like the bonus track on there. So again, it's like you said, after track 11, it just starts to feel like there's songs on there just being placed. They don't really make sense how they don't align. Like they could align to the story, but the way that they're placed, it kind of has it all over the place. Because like we said, just before Not Gonna Cry, you're talking about Our Love. Like it just,
that's what I'm saying, because Our Love to me sounds like the end of the album because she's talking, Our Love will stand tall as a tree. Like it's basically like resilience, right? Yeah. So that's where it feels like the album naturally ends, but Not Gonna Cry, that's why I said I feel like it's just thrown on there because it was so popular. Like they were just like, well, let's just throw it on the album to drive the sales. So yeah.
Absolutely. So if we had to rate this album, first of all, let's not rate the album first, but let's give me your top 3 songs on the album in order. Let's do that.
Okay. I'll go first.
Okay.
Mine are Everything and I Can Love You in 7 Days.
Okay. 7 Days, I Can Love You, Everything.
And I guess I better just fall right in line.
Right.
Mine definitely I Can Love You, then 7 Days, and then Everything. Yeah.
I think all the singles are great. Like this is one album where every single they released was like a really good song. So I think that's why those stand. Yeah, we picked all singles, and I think that's why. But that's not. I do want to give honorable mention to Missing You and Share My World. Yeah. I want to give honorable mention to those because I really like those too. But yeah.
I don't know why, but yeah, I would do that. Every time you say that, I'm thinking of that doggone song, and Faith is not saying Missing You, she's saying Kissing You. I don't know why I want to do that.
Okay, so I have that same problem too, because whenever I see Missing You, I hear like 2 other songs called Missing You before I hear Mary's. It takes me a while to find it in my brain.
That's the thing about being like that time period, because there was so much coming out at once from all these different artists, you kind of get confused. But yeah, so if we had to rate this album from a scale of 1 to 10, thinking about like the cultural impact, we think about what it did for her career, the song selection, like singles, what would we rate this out of 10?
Me personally, I would give this, I would probably say like a 7.5 out of 10.
I was gonna say 8.
I was gonna say
Okay.
Yeah.
We're all on the same page.
Yes.
Yeah, I feel like she was finding her way. Again, you know, she was winning awards for this album. She actually was nominated for a Grammy that year, but got beat out by Erykah Badu's first album.
Right. And then I know like that whatever single, I think it was I don't know what single that came off of that, but it was kept from being number one. It would have been number one on the Hot 100 had it not been for One Sweet Day that was like on there for like 16 weeks. Mariah Carey and Boyz II Men.
Yeah.
They was blocking everybody from they was blocking everybody from getting a number one, but yeah.
Crazy enough though, like she knocked Big out of the number one spot when her album dropped. His had been standing there because that was during the time of his passing. And she knocked him out of the spot. So I guess, I mean, hey, she had.
Yeah, I'm gonna say her album. Yeah, she got a number one album for sure out of that album, man.
That was her first one. That was her first one.
And I just think it's important to her career and discography because it is that her first reinvention and her transition. And this is what solidified her as like you guys said, here to stay, a real artist and not just a one-trick pony.
Absolutely. So this was Share My World, guys. We will actually do a deep dive on the queen herself at some point, and that's going to be super exciting because I think I will continue to say she is one of the greatest investments from a manager, from a label. She just continues to reinvent herself. What can she not do? You know, we'll get into that when we dive.
I was going to say, I was like, oh, I have an idea what I want to hear from her next, but I was like, I'll save it for the deep dive whenever we do that.
Yeah, we'll do it. Yeah, because I know you can't wait to talk about the London session.
So underrated. That's an amazing album, but yeah.
Absolutely. So yeah. But thank you all so much for joining us. Be sure to like, share, subscribe, and we'll see y'all in the next go around.
Yeah, and don't forget to leave comments. Let us know what you want us to deep dive on next.
Yeah. Give us some suggestions on albums, and then also these deep dives on albums or dissections. We'll also do tours. So if there's any tour in mind as well, let us know.
Mm-hmm.
But
yeah.
I forgot.
Thanks for watching. Bye.
Bye.